Good Sunday morning, and thank you for watching Beyond the Headlines. There's one city document that sets the rules. Rules to work by, rules to live by, and rules to govern. Every so often, those rules change, or those rules could change, and you could help. The city charter is Laredo's governing document that is made up of 12 articles. It establishes rules such as the city's form of government, term limits for elected officials, taxation, and so much more. Now is the time to get involved as the process to amend the charter begins. The involvement could be by way of going to upcoming commission meetings and offering up recommendations or getting signatures from the public on a specific initiative. Whether you're on the outside looking in or the inside looking out, one area everyone agrees on is the need to get it right.
It's like the Constitution. That's what it is, the city's Constitution. It's the most important document. And this is an opportunity to voice your opinion about what you want, where you want your government to go. So it's very important. And right now, my biggest grievance is that the city council is using the city charter like toilet paper.
We're seeing people thinking outside of boxes, looking at other cities, looking at other angles. We have educators, we have developers, we have all types on there.
Well, and that's where we begin today's discussion. But first, making up our panel this Sunday is KGNS political contributor Sergio Mora. Hi, Sergio. How are you? KGNS News Director Jerry Garza. Hi, Jerry. Good morning. And KGNS News anchor and investigative reporter Mindy Caso and my co-anchor.
Morning.
Hi, Mindy. Good morning. The city charter seems to be one of those things that we hear a lot about, but nobody really knows much about it unless they really start to do some digging. Yeah. And not a lot of people are willing to do that digging, right? But this strikes me as something, Sergio, that you happen to have a lot of knowledge about.
Well, I mean, like you say, it comes up every couple of years. The issue comes up, and I think that there are some good ideas being tossed around. I know that a few years ago there was an election to see if they could add at-large members to the city council. That proposal failed, but it's still being brought up. Maybe not bringing as many as what was proposed back then. I think it's a good idea because the mayor is the only person, apart from the municipal judge, the mayor is the only municipal position that's elected citywide, yet he has no power on city council. It's a very ceremonial role unless there's a tie and he breaks the tie. But I mean, the others, the city council members, they are acting mostly they're focused on their district and they're focused on winning re-election in their district and therefore bringing good stuff to their districts. That could cause nobody to really focus on the whole the way it should be. And I think at-large representatives would have the interest of the city at large, economic development, like everything, the strategy, everything at large as a city. So I think that that's a good thing. Also, they're questioning the city manager, city council form of government. I think it's good as it is. I mean, I think that we need guardrails so that city council members don't interfere in the duties of the city manager. That I think is urgently needed.
The micromanaging definitely has been a hot topic for a few years now.
Yes.
There's been accusations, and not only accusations, we've seen it.
Of course.
So, you know, that definitely might be something that the charter would want to address.
You know, I want to get away from the micro, you know, and it's how you look at it, right? We talk about micromanaging, but you know, you also have to caution. You know, when you look at that, the city council is the elected body for the entire city. They represent the public, right? Yeah. So, and the city manager is appointed by them, and so you know, you talk about guardrails. Council is the guardrail for the city manager, you know, who is not an elected person. Yeah. And so there needs to be some types of check and balance on the city manager as well. And so, you know, while I do think that there needs to be some level of hands-off, there also has to be some level of hands-on, because you also you also want to make sure that there is political accountability. And I mean political accountability through the elected democratic process, that the city manager also has those guardrails as well.
But I agree with that, but I don't agree with jumping the city manager and going straight to department
Exactly.
directors, because that's when you get department directors that are being thrown in different directions. You know,
Pressure.
yeah,
Yeah.
do they listen to the city management? Do they listen to the city council members? Is their job at stake if they're not doing what city councilmen ask them to do directly? I think you're right, Jerry. It does have to go through city management, and then the city manager then is held accountable.
And I'll put it to you this way. The county does not have a city manager or a county manager. The county commissioners run everything, directly.
Yeah.
And I think we did,
Evaluations and
I
everything.
think we did a pretty darn good job, and I think they're doing a pretty darn good job right now. So there's something to be said about being able, and problems were resolved pretty quick. And so I remember my 8 years as county commissioner, I was able to pick up the phone, call department head, hey, I need this done because this is what, and it would get done. And there's something to be said about efficiency.
Yeah, but the judge is the administrator of the county judge.
I disagree with that.
The
It is called commissioner's court, not judge's court. And that's the one thing that they always said,
But-
is
but-
that the
but-
power lies within the entire commissioner's court,
but
not just one person.
Just like the state legislature or the federal Congress, you have one body that legislates, and then you have the executive, which administrates. And I think that in the city council, you have the city council that sort of legislates that this is how the city's going to be run. Now run it. But when the city manager's trying to run it based on the charter, based on his training as city manager, all of a sudden you have city council members, hey, hire that guy because he gave me political contribution, or do this, or I'm going to fire you. They city council members threaten department heads. They shouldn't have the power to fire anybody
No,
unless they all get together and vote and they say,
Well, and
city
that-
manager.
or
no,
hire
and that's why
somebody.
the evaluations at the county were so good, because it took
Yeah.
it took a majority of the vote of the court
Yeah.
to terminate somebody
Right.
versus
Of course.
Right.
just one person. Hey,
Right.
dude, that's here you could make the deal behind closed doors and nobody
Yeah.
would ever know.
Yeah.
Over here, you're going to terminate somebody. You got to put your
Yeah.
face on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but one of the main problems that we've had throughout the years is city council members going rogue and trying to impose their
Yeah.
will on the city, and that's not their role. Their role is to
It's to set policy.
To set policy and oversight. Okay,
Right.
city manager. Okay, department heads. What have you done these
Yeah,
past
set
months?
policy,
What
set
have you
budget.
done this past year? Okay, city manager. Finance is not doing its job. Please look into it. Please do something about it.
Yeah.
A single city council member can't say, "Hey, finance director, do this, or I'm going to fire you."
And so maybe that's
Or they
where,
shouldn't,
and so
anyway.
maybe that's where then the ethics ordinance needs to have a little bit more teeth
Yeah.
to be able to provide much more oversight to council members who are doing things that you are suggesting.
Well, it should, I don't know if it's feasible in the city charter to say council members cannot interfere directly with the
Yeah.
duties of department heads. And there, set policy in terms of this
Yeah,
is
a
how.
protocol.
Yeah.
This
A
is
set
how
protocol.
oversight is done. This is
Right.
how people are held into
I
account.
agree with that. I think that's a good
Procedures.
idea. We also want to mention that in that piece that we showed just a little bit ago, Poncho Caso was interviewed because he says that the mayor was going to appoint him to be on this commission, but that they weren't able to garner enough votes to have him placed on the commission. But he does have and submitted what he's referring to as the Robin Hood Initiative. So these are a set of proposed changes to the city charter that he is mustering up, attempting to muster up enough signatures to have it go before a vote, I would imagine. So some of these, though, there are 15 initiatives within his Robin Hood Initiative. Some of them, the one that we were looking at, several we were looking at today was like eliminate city property taxes for senior citizens, things like that. But then some of them do go towards corruption, alleged corruption going on, and taking away appearances of conflict of interest and things like that. So it might be a good time to look at those initiatives and see how people feel about that.
I've always, avoid the appearance of conflict of interest. No, let's actually avoid conflict of interest, right? No, let's not just avoid the appearance of
Exactly.
conflict of interest. Let's actually avoid that. One of the ones that I do see here, and I think one of them that we want to talk about giving the mayor more power. for one, we need to realize this: we are all probably older than the city charter. The city charter was a construct in the early '80s, right? Yeah. So we're all older than that, and it does need to be revised at the beginning. And a lot of people may not know this. And here's a bit of a history lesson: is you can only amend the charter every 10 years, and it isn't until recently that you can take a look at the charter a little bit more frequent. But the amending the mayor's veto power, I think, might, just that in of itself may provide additional guardrails to where, hey, right now it just requires 6 votes to overturn a mayoral veto, which is one more than a simple majority.
Right.
So maybe making that where it has to be a super majority, 7, that may be able to put a little bit more check and balance, because the mayor come back, I don't agree with you until we agree on something. We're going to have to go to the full 7 or 8 to be able to override that. So that might be a good proposal to look at.
Yeah, and you have to also remember that this form of government was established as a reaction to the Martin days when the city manager, when the mayor had extreme
complete
power.
Right.
And so this was a reaction to that, where they stripped the mayor completely of any power.
Right.
And it might have been an overreaction that needs adjustment, in terms of maybe the mayor should have more than just ceremonial powers, tie-breaking powers, and have more
And I think people are
authority.
still just gun shy because of that history in Laredo's,
True.
that time in Laredo's history.
Yeah, but now you have a bunch of city council members that build coalitions and are able to exercise that same sort of unquestioned.
But you look at other major cities. San Antonio's got a council, it's got a weak, for the most part, a weak mayor form of government as well. Most major municipalities have that type of governmental structure. And then you look at the other side, you have City of Chicago, which has the very strong mayor, and we all know the amount of corruption that exists in the city of Chicago. So it's a delicate balance, but hopefully the commission's going to do its job and come with some good proposals.
And we just hope that that people do take interest in this and really
Go out and vote.
Yeah, go out and vote, definitely, because like you said, it only happens once every 10 years. So once something is put into the charter, we don't have 10 years until we can change it.
And you're right, and ultimately it comes down to the quality of council members and mayor that we elect, because whatever this committee comes up with, it's only advisory. They're going to recommend it to the
city,
council.
and they can either thumbs up or thumbs down.
Exactly.
We get what we elect.
Right.
That's right.
All right, when we come back, in South Texas, high-speed chases are rising near the Texas border. Some say the line between public safety and border security can sometimes blur with Texas State Police. We'll discuss the numbers, the topic of border security, and show you videos of some close calls next. And welcome back. How to secure the border continues to spark differences in opinion, most notably between the Biden administration and the Texas government. One of those concerns involves state troopers in their pursuits to stop illegal immigration. But some are saying, at what cost? Now, this is video that has run in our newscasts in the past few months showing some of those concerns. It is only one of many, according to a New York Times article published last month. In South Texas counties along or near the border, chases doubled to 1,100 in 2022, which is up from 500 in 2019. The Texas Department of Public Safety said it counted 29 people killed in pursuits by its troopers in 2021 and 2022, the first 2 years of Operation Lone Star. Governor Abbott has credited the operation with thousands of arrests and an emphasis on securing the border. With recent court rulings on the state's border buoys and razor wire, and Secretary Mayorkas visiting Laredo this past week, it doesn't look like there is an end to the fight on immigration. So, leading off this discussion, it's something that we've talked about many a times. This is just sort of an offshoot of that discussion, and it's these chases that have been happening and safety for all in the midst of trying to secure the border as well, and also the state's police responsibility in all of this.
Yeah.
The upsetting part, and I think people should be more upset about this, is that the state government and the federal government, instead of fighting the problem, they're wasting all their resources and energy fighting each other.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, the only really ones who benefit are the people who are engaging in this type of illegal activity or trying to do this type of illegal activity. And you're never going to resolve the problem so long as the only entities that can do anything about it are fighting each other.
Yeah. I mean, the scary part about it is the lives that are being placed in danger when these chases happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I've just, how many stories have we covered where an innocent driver or passengers of a car that had nothing to do with the chase in the first place was killed because of a chase like this? How do you fathom that?
We definitely down here in Laredo and on the border have a front row seat to this, and we have to accept the fact that this is a relatively new phenomenon in terms of the last 5 years, that this has just really exploded and gotten out of control. And it's very difficult to ignore in terms of like when there's arguments that say the problem's not that bad. You have these car chases that have killed hundreds of people, like they flip over, 8, 10, 12
burst into
people
flames
die.
and
they strike innocent civilians in their cars, and everybody here is at risk of that. So, I mean, it's interesting. The legislature passed legislation that's going to make smuggling punishable by like 10 years minimum sentence. And this SB4 that's going to empower
law enforcement,
state law enforcement to detain. But I mean, I don't see this particular problem easing up with that particular new law. If you empower everybody, constables, everybody to if they deem somebody is here illegally to pretty much give chase. Because these are only happening because of traffic stops.
But the argument is if someone's going to take off, it's because they're trying to avoid
They're
getting
doing
caught
something they
from
shouldn't be
something.
doing.
Right?
Of course,
Yeah.
So now if you have more eyes out in the field, you would expect these types of chases to increase because more eyes, looking out for the bad guys. I mean, you're going to find them.
Republicans don't want to approve a Ukraine aid package unless there's some sort of border security funding in there as well. Where does that money go? How does this, fix this problem that we're seeing here with these chases?
Ruben, the thing is that there's billions and billions of dollars appropriated at the federal level and billions of dollars now appropriated at the state level. This Operation Lone Star, while impressive in terms of the amount of resources going into it, the results are tiny compared to the results that the Border Patrol, the results that they post, the numbers that they post. So you have to understand that there's a lot of politics involved in these big walls, measures. Like a lot of these don't really go a long way to fix the problem. And how do you fix this problem in terms of like how many walls, how many officers, how many... the numbers that you read are only the people that they catch. And that has to be a tiny, tiny percentage of the amount of people that get through.
Exactly.
And so even though, throw in more billions of dollars, the state, say the federal government's not doing its job, throw more billions of dollars in. What we're seeing that the combined efforts don't do anything against this influx. And as the world conditions worsen, as droughts worsen, as violence worsens, we're going to see more and more people trying to get into this country. So, I mean, the obvious answer is fixing the problem at the root, getting immigration reform. But politically, that doesn't get you votes.
No.
It doesn't get Republican votes. We're like, we're going to seal the border and put alligators in the river and put electric fences. Yeah, like that'll get you votes. But is that going to stop the problem? It's not.
As idealistic as it is to solve the problem at the root, and what do you need to do to go back to these countries and figure out how do we stop our people from wanting to leave our countries, Honduras and Venezuela, where we see them all coming from. How long is that going to take? These people have been trying to leave their countries for decades.
Because you're talking about fixing other governments.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It just seems like a hopeless case.
Yes,
you're trying to fix
for
corruption
example,
in other governments.
Right.
But one thing, like corruption in other governments and in Latin American governments and the destabilization and the violence are caused by American guns that are bought here in the United States and sent, like weapons of war that are sent in the hundreds of thousands into these countries, and proceeds from drugs being sold in the United States that allows the criminals to corrupt these governments.
But are we
So-
saying that these people are all wanting to leave their country because of weaponry? I mean, there's got to be, they're wanting to leave, allegedly
There's-
because they're looking for a better life, better
Yes.
jobs, better,
Well, then the security, I mean-
family
Yes.
situation and safety.
Yes, but now you
how do you
have-
fix that?
Now you have these borderline failed states where these criminal organizations controlled wide swaths of territory, and Mexico is a prime example. And a lot of kids get forcibly recruited into these organizations. There's a lot of kidnappings, there's a lot of extortion, businesses get extorted. A lot of people are leaving because of that. And what allows these organizations to dominate and to overpower the state in many instances is they have an unlimited access to weapons of war, and they get them purchasing them from the United States. And the U.S. doesn't want to reform its gun laws. It wants to keep selling assault weapons unlimitedly, which I agree, if someone wants to buy an assault weapon, that's fine. But what is happening is that these organizations are coming into gun stores, are coming into gun shows, and buying weapons of war in bulk, like if you were buying mayonnaise at Costco. And
So
they
it's our
take it-
fault, and so we need to let them in because it's our fault?
No, but if the U.S. is really serious about lessening the problem and not putting lipstick on the pig, not putting, we're going to stop this by walls, and that's not working. You want it to work? We have to address the problem at the root, and I think that not giving these organizations access to unlimited weapons that allow them to destabilize these countries, that cause the people to want to leave, is a more effective way to do it.
I just think that that's going to take a really long time to happen, because now you're talking about, really having to.
But this is just going to take care of the symptoms.
Yeah, we need to we need something on the short term, and then looking at the lifestyle, the economy of these, the families who are coming across that feel proud about the country that they, were born and raised in.
course.
What makes a person want to stay in their country? Why do we all stay here in the United States and not migrate to, Europe or, someplace else? Because we like our country and we like what it offers us in exchange. How do you do that at their countries?
We're looking at it through our lenses. I mean, these countries, the cartels have taken over, and, gangs have taken over, where they're saying, your firstborn is going to come and work for my cartel, and if not, we're going to kill your entire family. Those are the situations that they're dealing with.
persecution they're trying to
we can't
stay.
even fathom that, but that's exactly what they're going through. Biggest takeaway from all this is I didn't realize that he bought that much mayonnaise at Costco.
Or that alligators in the river is a possibility either. I didn't realize that was a
Right? Maybe that's better than the buoys.
When we come back, we'll take a look back at the one thing our panelists cannot stop thinking about. Stay with us. Okay, it's the one thing our panelists cannot stop thinking about for the past week. Sergio.
Well, I came across this. I did not know this existed, and a lot of people do, a lot of people don't. This is Morgan's Wonderland. This is a ultra accessible theme park in San Antonio, and it was created by Morgan's father. Morgan is disabled, and the father noticed that kids would shy away from his daughter while on vacation in a hotel pool because of her disability. So he decided to build a theme park for children like her, disabled children. And he got together with therapists, engineers, doctors, and they created Morgan's Wonderland. And all of the rides are wheelchair accessible. They're accessible to everybody. And it has become such a huge attraction that Time Magazine named it one of the 100 best places on earth.
Wow.
It has had over 2 million visitors from all 50
When did it
states
open?
and 122 countries. It opened in 2010.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It opened in
Very
2010.
impressive.
What a
Very impressive
beautiful
place.
thing.
Very impressive. And it's going to be made into a movie.
It's a great story.
Really?
Recently,
The
yeah.
building of it, the creation of
The
it?
creation
Oh,
of
that's
it.
amazing.
So, yeah, I didn't know it was there. That's
great
what,
story.
what a great place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jerry?
Actually, how many of us grew up with this movie? But this past weekend, not this weekend, last weekend, it was the 47th anniversary the Rocky movie, and it took 47 years, but they finally did Rocky Day in Philadelphia. So
I'm surprised it took them
I'm
that
surprised
long.
it took them that long.
Really am.
But yeah, 47 years, and everybody was up there. Sly himself was there, recreating that stair scene. Took him a lot longer this time. And I don't know if he made it.
Didn't go up as quick as he did.
47 years. I thought, it got staying power.
That is pretty neat there.
Mindy?
Very cool. Okay, my one thing was Time Person of the Year that was announced this past Wednesday. Of course, we're looking at Taylor Swift. And, I know what you guys are thinking, Taylor Swift, just another Taylor Swift story or accolade. But the reason why I was so excited to see that she was chosen was because of what she represents. We ran the story about who all made the short list. I know we ran it on the morning show, and there were some pretty heavy hitters. I mean, we're talking about the Russian President Putin. We're talking about Jerome with the Federal Reserve. There were some people there that were very heavy hitters. And then there was Taylor and Barbie. We talked about that too, and I just feel like I was
gone with Barbie.
I was happy that they chose someone who didn't represent something that was doom and gloom. They chose someone who represented something that we all can appreciate, and music transcends across genres, across generations, and they chose someone who is just an entertainer and brings joy to people who like her music, whether it's country or pop or whatever genre she is doing at the time, and I just really appreciate that. And I'm proud of the selection committee, the Time magazine, for choosing Taylor Swift.
Okay.
Hush.
My one thing is Oxford's word of the year, which is Riz, which I am now going to start incorporating into my language. It means, what does it mean? I know I wrote it down somewhere.
Ruben's got Riz.
It is short for charisma, as someone's ability to attract another person through style, charm, or attractiveness. I have zero Riz whatsoever.
You're very rizzy, man.
Thank you.
We've never heard that word hasn't made its way.
I'm not familiar with Riz, but now I'm going to start using it in my daily vernacular.
I had never heard of it. I
So
learned
Riz,
something new.
Ruben. Riz.
Not much.
Riz
but
is Ruben is
you
Riz.
all are all Riz. Rizzy. Thank you. Thank you all very much, and thank you for watching. Have a blessed Sunday.